First of all, can you tell us since when do you teach at the American University in Bulgaria?
Okay, I started teaching full time. I didn't teach full time before. I worked in industry, so I started teaching full time in 2016. So I came here to Bulgaria, my first teaching job from 2016. So I'm almost about 5 years right now.
Thank you. And how do you like the environment in Volgograd? It's not a big city, but with beautiful mountainside.
It's very nice. I enjoy it. I like the small town kind of feeling. It seems to me it's like a university town. We have AUBG, we have Southwest University. It's nice. It's nice. Well, let's say this: it's before the pandemic,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. Okay.
But I enjoy it. I really do enjoy it. It's quiet. It's not too big. I've had the opportunity to actually move to Sofia with AUBG, and I decided to actually stay here because it makes me focus on the work here. I know a lot of people in town. They kind of know me, and it's nice. I enjoy it, and a lot of environmental things, the mountains, parks you can go, to Rila, Bansko is pretty near. So there's a lot of things to do.
Yeah. And have you been up in the mountains?
I have. I've actually been like 3 or 4 times. The Rila Lakes area, the
Yeah.
different mountains. I actually I like hiking. I do like kind of mountain climbing, although I'm not a professional. I'm very, very amateur, but I like to do that. That's one of my things to do. Mountains and the ocean.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's now turn the page on the focus of this interview, AUBG and Hack AUBG. First of all, we all know from movies and other stories that we heard from friends about the culture of the American universities. And do you think that this is an important step in creating a more open-minded students? Maybe a proof for this, I think, is the hub itself, because in Bulgaria it's not common, or at least it wasn't, to have such clubs of or students formations.
I think, let me tell you this. This is my first teaching job, and it's the first time also that I've had experience in a liberal arts university. My background is really kind of engineering and larger research type universities. I went to Boston University. I really don't have experience with liberal arts. So coming to here, the AUBG in Blagoevgrad, it was really interesting. It was very interesting to me to see the very diverse type of students here, very creative, very liberal, very open-minded. They take on a lot of challenges, and they're very critical thinkers, and that's very important because I think this is what we need. We need people to be critical thinkers. We need young people, to kind of develop and take charge and kind of create a better world, right? And this is what I try to teach in my classes. I really, really kind of push very, very much this idea of critical thinking, and I enjoy it. I think just my opinion is in this part of the world, Eastern Europe, the Balkans, we need kind of this type of thinking, kind of the new generation, new ideas, kind of very, very liberal and open. And I think it's very important. I think AUBG does a good job to develop these young people from all over Europe, from Central Asia and everywhere. I really enjoy it here.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that especially here in Eastern Europe and post-communist countries like Bulgaria, we totally need some more open-minded thinking, because it's a necessity for us to become even closer of the culture of the European Union, and over the ocean to the American thinking.
Yeah. I always believe people should be balanced, right? My background, I mean, I don't know if you know this, but I was actually born in Greece. I was born in the country right
So,
next door.
yeah,
Um,
neighbor.
yeah, neighbor, right? So, culturally, I adapted here very well. I in my previous work in working as an engineer, as an executive in businesses and manufacturing, I've traveled around. I saw other cultures. I lived in other places. I lived in Japan and other places. But coming here, it was an easy transition. So, having said this, what I can say is that you know, some of the mentality, if you permit me to say this, some of the mentality in the Balkan region is a little bit different, is a little bit kind of, maybe old style thinking a little bit. But at the same time, I see that the younger people are really, the new generation are really kind of changing that. And they're hungry, they're excited, they're motivated. And I think it's very important. I think you cannot really change a society, improve a society, change a society, except through education and through young people as they kind of develop and become, business leaders, political leaders, social leaders, all these things. And I'm excited for that. I see this as, kind of my mission here. This is something that creates satisfaction in me. This is why I'm here today. I don't have any classes today, but I prepare. I come in every day. I have open sessions with my students because I see them that they really, really want to do this. They really kind of, want to improve their lives and improve their countries. More and more students are saying, yeah, America is nice, but I want to focus on Bulgaria. I want to stay in Europe and really kind of do that. So I think it's extremely important to do that.
Yeah, because education is coming from the educators. So
Yeah.
it's really important, as you said, for the educators to be really committed to what they're doing.
And that Plum, and that's very what you said is very important, very important. Please again allow me to say this, and I say this in a sincere way. But the job that educators have, teachers, educators, in my view, it's one of the most important jobs because not because of us, not because of us. It's because we use material, we use resource, which is the most precious and most valuable resource in the world, and that's young people. We use that as a resource, and to create and develop that resource, develop it in a better way. For me, that's very humbling. I think this is a very satisfying job.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much. And let's move on. So you have a strong education background, as we know, and a strong experience in business management and engineering that goes more than 20 years. What are the keynotes or the key advices that you give your students about developing themselves in great entrepreneurs?
I think they need to take on challenges. They need to take on risks. Uh, Primarily calculated risks. This idea, I teach our entrepreneurship here as well. But this idea that entrepreneurs are these risk takers, et cetera, et cetera, partially, yes, I understand. But the most important thing is to really strategize, create a strategy, and be like a calculated risk taker. So I always try to kind of tell them, take calculated risks, plan your course out, but also at the same time, jump in, look at what value can you create for customers, for potential customers. That's another key thing that I tell especially my entrepreneurship students, what you develop, what you kind of create. Are people going to buy it? Are they going to pay for it? Are you sure about that? And what kind of value you create in them? And it's the same thing. It's the same thing that I teach my other students as well. Not only entrepreneurship, but regular students who are not going into entrepreneurship, whether it's strategy or their personal development. Sometimes they ask me, well, how can I, how should I act in an interview? How can I, interact with the interviewer? And I say the same thing. Okay, show them your value. Show them what kind of value you can bring to the organization, to the company. How valuable you can be to them, and you'll be all set. If you can do that, you'll be all set. So value, taking calculated risks, working hard. I actually really believe this. My background is, as I mentioned to you, my whole family was born in Athens, in Greece, and we immigrated to the United States many years ago. And we struggled when we went to the States. We struggled. I mean, but have this image of United States being opportunity, etc. But you have to work. And I remember I had to work very hard. My father had to work very hard. My mother, and I really value that hard work. So in the first class every semester, no matter what I teach, whether it's strategy or entrepreneurship or negotiations or leadership, is always kind of presenting myself. And some of the things I tell them is preparation, being organized, working hard, creating your own luck by preparation and things like this. These are the things that I value. And I tell them this because I said, if you want to do well in my course, follow this and you'll be okay.
Thank you. And so you've been judging over the past years on the hackathon. What are your impressions of the organization and the projects over the years?
Okay. I think the organization is great. I think it's a very nice medium. It's a nice mechanism to get people to think, young people to create ideas, to get them to think, especially about improving their society, making things more efficient. Not only like, people have this idea, well, I'm going to create something to make a lot of money. It's not so much like that. They do like that, but also it's kind of improving people's lives. So I think the whole mechanism is a very good one. One thing that I always actually kind of tell the students, some of my students who participate in this, and I judge them, is it's great that you have ideas of creating apps, apps, digital apps and things like that. It's great, it's really good that you do that, but also try to think about actually creating something you can hold in your hand, something that you can manufacture. My background has been in manufacturing. The companies that I work with are Japanese, American, European, Italian companies that make machines. So the feeling that I understand technology and the apps and coding and all that. I understand that, but unless you're like very tremendous, great idea, it's going to be difficult. But try even something very simple, something that can improve somebody's life. And it could be something extremely simple. See if you can actually make something. And what I've noticed both in my entrepreneurship class and also the hackathon, is that some students are starting to understand that. So yes, they go for like the digital stuff, but also they try some new ideas in terms of actually making something. So I'm happy for that. I think that this idea is kind of getting through to them.
Thank you. And what are you looking for in the projects from engineering and from business point of view?
Okay. I am looking for, as I mentioned, from the engineering point of view, not so much. I mean, the engineering, I'm not so sure what I can see, from engineering. But what I'm looking for is something that can really be of value to society, something that could be valuable to customers, but it can be used as a value to society. So one example that I can give you is in the United States right now, they're trying to roll out the vaccines for COVID-19, right? Each state is different. You know, they have different programs, different volumes, different populations. There's no centralized coordination. So one of the things that I read, it was a young student, I believe in New York. What he created was an app. It wasn't something physical, but it was an app that actually streamlined that process. You can type in your zip code. You can type in some information. It'll direct you specifically to where you want to go. That is something that helps people, you know, in society, especially now there. So this is what I'm looking for: some unique, innovative idea that, you know, they can create to help society, to help their fellow, you know, residents, whether it's in Bulgaria or Europe or anywhere. You know, not so much the technical side. The technical side are details that you can kind of iron out later on. But it's that innovation, that initial idea, coupled with, you know, helping society and people, which I think is very, very a good thing approach to go with.
And it's interesting that do you think it is possible, and have you seen a great talent developing a pet project?
What kind of talent? Tell me again.
Do you think it is possible, and have you seen a great talent developing a bad project?
A great talent developing a bad project?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, actually, a few times I've seen this. I've seen this in my entrepreneurship class. I've seen it in different settings where I have been a judge. And generally, the reason this happens, you know, great talent in terms of students who are A students, right? Who've done great in one of the hardest classes here, which is strategic management, but then they go into entrepreneurship and do the hackathon, and they don't do so well. One of the things that I see is they really don't understand um, the value or the lack of value of their idea. So one of the things in terms of entrepreneurs that we kind of know is their mentality that if they create something, you know, for them it's the greatest thing in the world. They have this feeling, you know, this is my baby. This is the greatest thing in the world. What I see is this same idea with some students, some really good students, but they don't really understand that you may be the greatest thing for you, but it may not be something out there that people really, really appreciate. And I've seen this several times.
All right, thank you. And what do you expect from this year edition of the hackathon? Do you think there's a trend that from year to year there are more and more talents, and in general the talent shift is growing in younger generation?
I think it is. I think it is. The younger generation is becoming more and more sophisticated. They are more interconnected. They have so much information, you know, at their disposal, in their hands. They, you know, they have this mentality, and then they also have a social mentality that they do want to help and create something. So I see these trends, and I see that slowly, yes, they have more ideas, they have better ideas, they have more social ideas, helping ideas. You know, most of those ideas are around digital applications and things like this, which is fine, which is okay. But I see them much, much improved. If I compare my generation with this generation, we were very, very behind. We had a different mentality. We had different tools. We didn't have the internet actually, right? These guys really, really are connected, very sophisticated, and they do have a good moral sense. So I think the trend is that they're going in a right direction. On kind of a negative side to that is I also feel that they have a lot of pressures, and some of the things they should kind of appreciate a little bit more is kind of time for themselves to get away from everything. And I think if they do that, you know, because now they're connected everywhere, so it's a positive and negative. If they actually spend some time to think for themselves and turn off the phones and get rid of the phone and all this. I think with that time of thinking that they can even become even better. They can actually sharpen those skills, improve those skills, and actually come up with something even greater ideas. So it's a double-edged sword, if you understand what this means. It's great that you have all these tools at your fingertips, whether you want to involve with market research and all this technology, but at the same time, sometimes it gets too much. And I always tell my students, I said, listen, in order to do this assignment or in order to do this project, you really have to turn everything off, go in your dorm room, go in your apartment, and just sit and think, because that's another thing entrepreneurs do. They sit and they think about ideas. It's like quiet time. And I think that's kind of important that they should consider as well.
Thank you. And strictly about the talent in technology, do you think that there are more talented people, as we spoke now, because technologies are now an everyday necessity? So it's becoming more popular, maybe, to have the curiosity to know what's inside of them, of the technologies, or what drives them.
I think so. I think generally speaking, what you're saying is absolutely correct. But I still believe, absolutely yes, but I still believe sometimes there is a segment of some young people that may sometimes accept things without really kind of digging deeper and questioning, why. So here I can give you a personal example from me from years ago, which I kind of saw this years ago. As an engineer, for example, we over the years we've developed many software to do analysis and mathematics and things like this. Okay, and I was in charge of many engineers, for 20 years, young people, young engineers. And they used to sit down on their computer and just, do the analysis and then get an answer and say, here you go. I said, well, you really have to also question the results that you get. You have to know what's going on. You have to, for example, if you write code, you have to kind of, the result that you get, you should kind of, understand if it's good or bad. I think that's still a factor. Some young people will just accept things sometimes based on technology, but I think that's also now changing, and it's changing for the better. It's changing for the better, and the pressure for that is kind of the positive pressure for that is this idea of society and kind of social improvement. One of the recent example I can give you with my classes here was we do case studies. We do a lot of case studies in business. And we did a case study with social media and Facebook. And my students actually knew much more than I did in terms of, false media and things like this on Facebook that you have to also question a little bit. And I was proud of that because slowly they're getting to that point. And I think that it's going in the right direction, as you mentioned. They are starting to question things.
Okay, thank you very much. That was it, and thank you for this interview. And I wish you good luck and great health. It's important, and a very successful edition of Hack AUBG. And
Okay.
yeah, it was really nice to meet you and to talk to you. And yeah, all the best.
Okay, thank you, Plowman. Thank you very much.
Good
luck. Hope to see you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.